Hi everybody, we are back at Now You're Cooking for a live demo, or recorded if you're watching this some other time. And tonight we are making pâte choux pastry, profiteroles, éclairs, cream puffs, whatever you want to call them. I made a batch yesterday. They're not the best next day, they're kind of soft, but they'll work for our purposes. But you do really want to bake them off as soon as you make your batter. Get them in the oven, take them out, let them cool, fill them, and then eat them. Or have other people eat them because you don't want to eat the whole thing. Or maybe you do want to. Coming up next week, we have Ash Carl from Bath Printing and her dad, Jeff Myers, and they are going to be making poiki, which is not spelled the way it's pronounced, but you'll see that if you go on our website. And it is a South African stew, very traditional, made in a cast iron pot with legs on it to cook out over the veldt with wood fire or whatever, but we're going to actually do it on the stovetop, probably in a cast iron pot is what I'm thinking. So we're really excited about that. We love having new people in our kitchen. And I think that's all we know so far. We'll have our schedule for February out soon, but this is what's happening now. So I'm going to make the choux pastry. That's C-H-O-U-X, not shoe like you wear on your feet. Choux means cabbage in French. So these are like little cabbages, cute little cabbages. You can make your cream puffs you can make them big and fill them with chicken salad or crab salad or something. You can make them small like this. You can add cheese to the batter. If you want to make them very savory, you do that before you do the eggs, and we'll go through that. I'm making sweet ones tonight. We're going to use an orange pastry cream, and I have candied orange peel. And our recipe, which is posted on our website, has the choux pastry, the creme anglaise or the pastry cream, and the candied orange peel recipes. And they're all pretty easy to make. My pastry cream's a little thin. Next time I make it, I might put in an extra egg yolk, but I'll talk quickly about how you make that as well, and the orange peel. The recipe for the pastry itself is from this book here, Making Dough. Awesome book. This is where I learned how to make croissants. I've made puff pastry. I've made rough puff from it. It's a great book. Most of the recipes ask for some bread flour and some cake flour, and I highly recommend you do it that way the first time you make it. I have had great success combining, so it's 4 cups and 2 cups, or 4 ounces and 2 ounces, and I would just do 6 ounces of all-purpose flour, and it seems to work just as well. But I always say follow the recipe as best you can the first time, and then you can start changing it to meet your specific needs. So the first thing that we're going to do, which I've already done, is take a cup of water and a stick of unsalted butter. If you have salted butter, that's fine. Just don't add the salt to the dry ingredients. There's 4 ounces of bread flour, 2 ounces of cake flour, half an ounce of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt, or a half teaspoon of salt. So just leave the salt out of the dry ingredients. So we've melted the butter in the water, and I'm just going to bring this up to a boil. So you want to simmer it until it's melted, bring it up to a boil, and then let it cool down just a little bit. Again, doesn't like medium heat. This is going to boil pretty quickly because I just had it going. Key tool for this is a wooden spoon. Don't use silicone, don't use metal, use wooden. Don't ask me the science behind that because I don't know, but I know a lot of recipes for pastry like this say you have to use a wooden spoon. And that is one thing I just don't mess with, because why would you? It's just a wooden spoon. And we have lots of wooden spoons. They are not expensive. Just don't put them into your dishwasher because they'll dry out and get kind of icky. So here we go, we're boiling. I'm gonna turn this down to low. I've whisked all my dry ingredients together. And there's a, what do you call it? A time lapse video that Heather posted yesterday of me making this. What's that?
I'll post it after.
And she'll post it again. So I'm just gonna add my dry. And this is fairly precise. Yesterday, I had written down the recipe incorrectly, so I put in 2 sticks of butter, and I like to say that I make the mistake so you don't have to. It did not come together because it was way too greasy, and so it went into the compost, and it will turn into soil, and it will feed some plants or something. So it's all okay, but you do want it to come together in a nice ball like this. And then I'm just putting this against the side of the pan because I do want it to be fairly dry. And this is kind of a modified roux. Like, so when we made the mac and cheese, we made a bechamel. We started with roux, which is flour and butter, flour and oil. And this is kind of a modified roux because it has that water in here as well. So I'm going to call that good. Turn off my stove, and you can see it's just really staying together nicely. The next step you can do in a stand mixer, which we're going to use, or you can do it by hand in a bowl, and that is fine too. And it's okay that this is hot. Okay. I'm just melting some chips here for the next step, but I want to melt it, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to, what's that?
White chocolate chips.
White chocolate chips. So I'm going to get this moving here. I'm using a paddle attachment, and I'm going to add my eggs one at a time. Little tricky with the beater going, but you do want to keep the beater going. And one at a time, and also letting them mix before I add the next one. Now, if you've ever watched the Great British Bake Off, you've seen people fail time and time again with this. I'm not sure why, because it's not really that hard, but I've never been under pressure like that. So I don't have Paul Hollywood looking over my shoulder and Prue or Mary Berry or anything. So I'm sure that I would have a lot more fails than I do in normal life, which is plenty, trust me. What's that? Yeah, true. It looks okay. It looks okay. Whoop. You do want to try to avoid. So here's what I would say. Instead of being silly like me and just cracking your eggs into it and likely getting shells in there, crack your eggs separately into a bowl and then add them one at a time, or into 4 different bowls and add them one at a time. So what you want is a nice matte color. You don't want it glossy. You want it kind of elastic, which is what we have going on here. And so I'm just going to scrape off my doohickey here. This is a specifically Smeg beater here. This is like a beater blade that is made for KitchenAids, but this is solid stainless steel, and then it has removable silicone on it as opposed to the plastic piece that after time will break. This should last forever. These are awesome. And it kind of helps with scraping the side of the bowl as you're mixing. Doesn't do it perfectly, but it's a lot better than not doing. And you can see how elastic that is. You want it to look kind of like, you want that V, I think. That I learned from the people on Great British Bake Off. And I'll be honest with you, this is only the second time I remember ever making choux pastry. The first time was yesterday, and aside from the too much butter thing, they came out beautifully. So I am here to tell you if I can do this, you can do this. I am not magic. So I'm putting this into a pastry bag. I don't even have a tip on my pastry bag because I don't need it. And then I'm going to come over to my prepared pans. So if you do have Paul Hollywood looking over your shoulder and he wants exactly the right size of everything being the same, what I would do is take a piece of parchment paper and a ruler and a pencil and draw lines on it for the size and length that you want for your éclairs, or make circles on it for your puff pastry if you need everything to be exactly the same. Then flip the parchment over, because you don't want the pencil to cook onto your item. But I don't think it would really hurt you if it did, but you don't want to do that. But you should still be able to see the lines, and then you can use that. I'm not bothering. I'm just going to go like this and make my éclairs. And we're not going to worry about that little pointy thing at the end, because we're going to flatten that out. And then I am also going to do some little profiteroles. You can do them big like that. You can do them even bigger. Fill them with some crab meat salad or something. So they don't have to be sweet. You can use these also as savory items. Oh, and as I said, you can do the cheese ones, which are called gougères, gougères. I don't know how to say it. It's French. And those you just, once you put your batter or your dough into the mixing bowl, then add your cheese, then add your eggs after. So I'm just going to take a little bit of water on the tip of my finger, and I'm just going to kind of pat these down a little so that they come out round instead of looking like little dwarf hats. Peaks. Peaks. Thank you, Heather. We don't want the peaks. There's nothing wrong with peaks. You can have peaks if you want to, if it's part of your style. So these are going in a 375 oven for, they say, they being the author of this cookbook, 45 minutes. I cooked them yesterday for about 35. So keep an eye on them once you get to a certain point. If they need to go longer, let them go. But if they don't, take them out, because you don't want to. Okay. Excuse me. This is pretty hot. So this is white chocolate chips. White chocolate doesn't melt as well as milk and dark chocolate usually. But this seems to be okay. These are Nestle Toll House chips. This is basically a double boiler. You do not want the water to touch the bottom of your bowl. And Mike is standing over there eagerly awaiting another.
White chocolate.
What's that?
White chocolate.
And because he loves white chocolate, so he's very excited about white chocolate. Okay, so pastry cream. The key with pastry cream is you heat up your milk and sugar, and then you mix up your egg yolks separately, and you want to temper the egg yolks, which means bringing the temperature of them up a bit, because if you just put them into a hot liquid, they're going to scramble like scrambled eggs. We don't want that. So a little of your hot milk, whisking as you add it till it's pretty warm, then you add it back into the rest of the hot milk, and that will thicken it. Probably needs another yolk in here, I'm guessing. Or I screwed something up. Could happen. But you can find recipes for pastry cream all over the internet. This is candied orange peel, which is delightful. It's something my dad used to make at Christmas time. And basically, you peel your oranges, slice them into slices, and they get simmered in a sugar water for about 20 minutes. Then you let them drain on a cooling rack. Once they're drained, toss them in sugar and then just put them back on the cooling rack or on a sheet pan and just let them dry overnight, and they are delicious. There's a little bitterness because there's quite a lot of pith in there. The sugar obviously adds sweetness, but they're not overpoweringly sweet. They're really just delicious. And Heather's nodding. Yeah, I'm not sure how well that's going to work, but we'll give it a shot. Okay. What?
You say
Pith. All right, so I am going to not do that yet because it's so runny. So for your profiterole rolls, you can make a little hole in the bottom like that, or you can cut the top off. Either way works. Same with these, you can fill them from the ends, you can fill them from the bottom, or you can slice the top off and then just put that back on top. So I'm going to put this in here, and I am using a metal tip for this because I want to be able to stick it in here, which would not work with just the plastic, obviously. I like to state the obvious. All right, so as I said, it's a little runnier than I'd like. The other thing you can do is you can use whipped cream. You can use lots of different things to do this. So I'm going to put the tip in, and I'm going to squeeze, and I can feel that filling, and you may have been able to even see it kind of puff up a little. So that's filling from the bottom. This is filling from the top, and we'll put the top on there. This is going to get really messy really fast. Filling my éclair from the top. Slap the top on there, or you can fill it from the end and then from the other end. And I'm almost out of cream here. And then if this had melted the way it was supposed to, which it didn't, sorry, Mike.
Just give me a spoon.
But I'm going to, yes, you can just have it in a spoon. So you should be able to dip these in it. And Amy warned me that this was going to happen, and she was absolutely right. But
she's always right.
She's always right. And so I'm just going to spread that on there. It is easier if you fill without taking the top off, because then you don't have to worry about the top sliding around. I had such high hopes for these.
I'll post the ones from yesterday that you made.
Heather's going to post the ones that I made yesterday using dark chocolate. And they were delicious. I felt like they were a little on the bitter side, like the dark chocolate. And I love dark chocolate, but I kind of felt like it would be better with something a little sweeter because the orange and the orange peel. Here, we'll just go like that. So there they are, and Mike is going to eat one.
I'm going to make a mess now.
That's good. That's what we want to see. If I made them a little smaller, he could have just popped the whole thing in his mouth. Do you like it with a white chocolate? Yes, you do. He's a white chocolate fan.
I liked it yesterday too.
With the dark. Yeah. So that is it. It's super easy. So I'm going to say maybe not the white chocolate, maybe use milk chocolate chips, or the dark chocolate chips worked really well. The white chocolate tends to seize up for some reason once it's heated. So that is choux pastry, pâte de choux, little cabbage things. You can fill them, as I said, fill them with something sweet, fill them with something savory. They're really quite delicious just on their own too. It's just kind of a, it's not quite savory, it's an eggy, not super sweet batter, and they're delicious. Try them with cheese, try them with anything you'd like. They are fabulous. If you have questions, please feel free to contact us. We're delighted to talk about of the things that we do for demos here. Next week, again, is Poiki South African stew with Ash Carl from Bath Printing and her dad, Jeff Myers. And we look forward to that very much. It's going to be really delicious and exciting. And give these a try. They're really fun and they are delicious. And people are going to be so impressed if you pull these out and serve them for dessert. So have fun with those. Have fun with everything. We'll see you again next week.